All right, let's start off with practice test question number 9. This guy would just ask to simplify. So you notice that you have parentheses here that's wrapping all of this, and you have an exponent of a 2. So you could start this problem off by basically applying that exponent to every single thing in the numerator and the denominator. But what I'm going to do, I think it'll be a little bit easier to understand if I actually clean things up first and then apply that exponent. Okay, you'll get the same answer either way. So in my numerator, I'm just going to focus right here for right now. Forget about the parentheses. I'll put them in a second. So I'm going to have this negative, and I'm going to write that as just -1. Okay, no change. And then times x, and then times y to the 4th power. So I really didn't do anything other than take the negative and write it as a -1, which is perfectly legal. Okay. Then I'm going to put times. Here I'm going to have this negative of x being squared. So I'm going to treat this negative here as -1, and then times x being squared, and then this is raised to the 2nd power, okay? Again, I know I have this exponent of 2 out here, but let's just forget about that for a second, okay? So if I wanted to simplify this, what could I do? Well, I could do, again, just -1 times x times y to the 4th power, no change there. But here I have this -1 that's being squared. So let me put times. I'm going to put -1. It's inside of parentheses because notice this guy right here is being squared. Okay, so this is going to be -1 being squared. And then times you have x squared being squared. Okay, so this is where your power to power rule comes into play. If you have x squared being squared, you keep x the same and you're going to multiply those exponents. So 2 times 2 would give you 4. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this as x to the 4th power. And -1 with the negative and the 1 wrapped inside of parentheses, if that's squared, that's going to give you +1, okay? And multiplying something by +1 does not change it. So in the context of multiplication, you can just get rid of it, okay? So now what I have is x times this x to the 4th power. So x stays the same and you add exponents. So this is basically an exponent of 1. This is an exponent of 4. So this is x to the power of 1 plus 4, or x to the 5th power, okay? So we've simplified this numerator now. Let me erase this real quick. And I'm going to write this, or actually I already have it written. I'm just going to drag this up here, okay? Let me put this over. For the denominator, what can I do? Well, I have z squared. There's nothing to really do with that. And then you see you have q being cubed, and it's raised to the power of 0, okay? Remember, if you have a non-zero number, okay, which we're going to assume that q is a non-zero number, and we raise it to the power of 0, well, then the answer is always going to be 1, okay? This ends up being q cubed raised to the power of 0. So from the power to power rule, you're going to multiply exponents. So 3 times 0 is 0. So this is q to the power of 0, so it's just 1. Okay, so you can get rid of that. All right, so now I'm just going to wrap this in parentheses and put it to the 2nd power, okay? And from here, all I really need to do is raise everything to the 2nd power. So I'm going to have -1, both the negative and the 1, because remember, you have parentheses right here, okay? So the -1 is being squared. So -1, this is squared, and then times, you have x to the 5th power being squared, and then times you have y to the 4th power being squared, and then this is over, you have z squared being squared, okay? So basically just a lot of power to power rule here. So let's go ahead and come down here and just say that this is going to be equal to -1 squared is 1. I'm just going to line that out and put 1. You don't need it. It's just multiplication. X to the 5th power being squared is x to the 10th power, right? Again, power to power rule. X stays the same. 5 times 2 is 10. Then this next guy here, y to the 4th power squared, again, power to power rule, y stays the same, 4 times 2 is going to be 8. And then down here, you have z squared being squared, so z stays the same, okay? And then 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. So this gives me a final answer here of x to the 10th power times y to the 8th power, and this is over z to the 4th power.